Meanwhile, on this side of the border, there's still, of course, many questions about what the race to replace Justin Trudeau will look like. Well, today, the Liberal Party officials were meeting to discuss the rules on how to rebuild the party. And, of course, at what point, if an election is on, what is the point, I should say, if an election is on the horizon? And can they come out strong? Warren Kinsella is a political strategist joining me here in studio, following this very closely, as we were just talking to Lori in terms of what's happening south of the border, but importantly here, as we're watching now, really the days, because there isn't that much time here. So in your sense here, when we're looking at a leadership race here, this is on the horizon, perhaps I should say, days or so away. What kind of strategies should the Liberals be adopting to sort of rebuild, to strengthen the party, to make it worth the attention of Canadians?
Everything they should be doing should be directed towards getting more popular.
Yeah.
Because, if you believe the latest polls, the gap between the Trudeau Liberals, soon to be formerly the Trudeau Liberals, and Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives is as much as 25 points. Mm-hmm. So that means if an election were to be held today, we're talking one of the biggest majorities in Canadian history for the Tories. So they've got to be focused on reversing that in some way. Mm-hmm. If not to achieve government again, then to save the furniture. Well,
that's just it. And as they're looking for sort of that new leader, as you're talking about, if we talk party specific, because of course maybe who that individual is may not necessarily matter. Maybe Canadians are going to vote toward the party, the philosophy of where that party stands. That has changed over the years. If we look at sort of where things were in the Jean Chrétien and Paul Martin era to where Justin Trudeau brought it, where does it need to go now?
Well, the one thing that Justin Trudeau did politically, and I know it probably drives a lot of Conservatives crazy, but he effected a very effective takeover of the New Democratic Party of Canada. Mm-hmm. So he appropriated a lot of their real estate, and obviously he benefited from it because he won 3 elections in a row. However, it's now one of the reasons why his party is as unpopular as it is. So my answer to your question is they've got to move it back to the center and have an economic policy in particular that is more centrist. Mm-hmm. You can see part of the reason why Poilievre is as popular as he is he talks about the economy all the time. He practically doesn't talk about anything else. Liberals need to learn from that and adjust accordingly.
Let's talk about the candidates now in terms of who that individual is going to be to lead the party. Perhaps for a very short period of time, or perhaps not, and can continue on, and as you say there, give it some of the gains that it's hoping to maintain, at least going into an election. So what are we looking for here? Because there is a lot at stake and a lot to give up if that individual decides to step into the ring.
I really feel, and I'm not involved in the Liberal Party, I was Jean Chrétien's special assistant. However, it is time for the Liberal Party to have a woman as leader. Every other party in the House of Commons has had a woman as leader. The Tories was quite brief, but at least they tried.
Right.
The Liberal Party has not. So really, if people agree with me, and I think I've talked to enough Liberals to know they do agree with me, that actually narrows down the field quite considerably. And I know there's men of great accomplishment who are in the race, but I think the Liberal Party, if it really wants to offset Pierre Poilievre's kind of angry guy routine, because he does seem to be angry all the time. Having a woman who's calm and centrist is probably the right way to go.
So who? Who do you think here? I mean, there's 3 names that are popping into my head right now, but give me your sense.
Well, the problem with Mélanie Joly is she's from Quebec, and the Liberal Party has got this tradition that has worked for them of having an alternation between an English-speaking or a French-speaking leader, so that kind of takes her out of contention. Also, she's quite close to the Justin Trudeau blast radius.
Right, because that's the other thing. You're sort of looking to someone, unfortunately, to separate themselves from the individual.
Well, you can see what Poilievre's already doing today. He's talking about just like Justin. So that really narrows it down, if I'm right, to just 2 people, which is Christy Clark, who's the former Premier of British Columbia, and Chrystia Freeland, who, even though she was Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, and the closest person to Justin Trudeau, at the start of December, separated herself from him in the most dramatic fashion. So I think those 2 are probably the most viable candidates. Carney, while a man, while from Canada's north, he's not a Quebecer, also a very impressive person. You could probably do worse than have the former governor of the Bank of England representing you in an economic war with the United States. I'm just not sure that it's a good idea to hand the job to a guy who's never held elected office.
this position could go any which way, as I mentioned earlier. Could continue on and lead the party, or you could be out of a job within a few months. We haven't had anyone directly or emphatically. Mr. Aradia, who was on Power and Politics with Dave Cochran, is sort of the one that's really put his foot forward. But no one sort of really said, I'm officially putting my name in the hat as they're sort of mulling over, what they're going to do. That position that you're in kind of is rather precarious, is it not?
It is, and I think what they're all doing, in fairness to them, is waiting to see what the rules say.
Right.
Is it $500,000 that you got to put in before you become a candidate? What are the rules for membership? They do have a huge problem. Just before I was coming on air, I was looking on Twitter or X,
yes,
and I was talking about the number of people signing their dog up to be a Liberal member.
Yeah.
That suggests to me that they've got a big problem. This giving away memberships for free, it was always a mistake, and they're going to pay a price if they don't fix that.
Okay, so what are you watching for now then, Warren? And as I said, we're not sort of looking at the long-term game here. I mean, I think they need to make a decision now.
Yeah, no, they do have to make a decision now on the rules, and they're going to move fast.
Yeah.
This supply vote at the end of March means this thing is, it's like an 80-day race. I don't think that's ever happened before. But the campaign, I know Mr. Poilievre wants it to be about the carbon tax. It's not about the carbon tax anymore. It's about Donald Trump. The candidate who's going to win is the one who's got the most effective plan of dealing with the threat that is posed by Donald Trump.
And really quickly, I just want to squeeze this in here. Majority, minority government here, those are major factors here, regardless of which party gets in.
I don't know a single Liberal thinks they can achieve another majority government. I think what they want to do is save the party as a viable force in Canadian politics. Right now, tonight, if an election was held, they'd be in fourth place.
Okay, we'll be watching. Warren, thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Warren Kinsella, a political strategist with us here in CBC.